All right, all right. Hope everybody's having some good food. Here we are. I cannot tell you all how happy it makes to see you all here. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time, and just really appreciate everybody being here. I don't intend to make this a very long speech, as we have some more exciting people to hear from. We got Keith Johnson, one of the best blues players around. I definitely want y'all to hear from him. And more importantly, we have Miss Sarah, who you will get to meet here in a few minutes. She's the real reason we're all here. So I need to start with a couple of very important thank yous. And I want to start with that man, Stuart Watley, for being my persistent partner in crime and for always being at the ready to just be helpful, solve a problem, provide an opinion. So thank you, Stuart. It's been fun working with you. I also want to thank the Palace Theater, this beautiful venue, for being here, and all of the people, namely Jamie and Jason, who made this thing happen, which was not a simple project. It took a lot of passion. It took a lot of perseverance. And for those of us that grew up in Macomb, it's very important to have it here. So thank you for that. I want to thank Henry Green, the man that from Tasty Smoke that has brought this beautiful aroma, and David and Edie Varnado, who are bringing us the other half of the equation and making sure we're all fed well. I want to thank Marion and Jonathan Evans, who are the very productive pictures team that have been not only capturing tonight, but have helped make a video that we're going to show you in a minute, and have just been an amazing team to really help capture the important message that Miss Sarah has for us all. And I want to thank my sister, Marion, who has been just jumping in and filling all the cracks of my little plan here, and super helpful. So thank you, Marion. A few other people that along the way heard about what Miss Sarah and I were trying to get done, and they just jumped in. Larry McDaniel, Jerry Bonds, Isabel Watkins, Jim Alford, just people that said, hey, I like what you're trying to do, I want to help, and showed up. And so I can't say how much I appreciate that. And finally, I want to thank you all, because you all have shown up. I assume you've made a donation. If you haven't, it's very simple. There's some posters. You walk up with your phone, QR code, boom, just add a little money in. But really, it's been unbelievable to see all of the folks from here, friends that I have from other places, people from all over the world who have shown up and just said, I want to help out. And you've helped us make some amazing things happen, and we'll talk about that in a little while, but I want to thank you all for doing that. And lastly, and most importantly, I need to thank Miss Sarah from the top, the bottom, and both sides of my heart. She's been the inspiration for this event, and she's the reason we're all here. And I'm not going to say much more about her just yet, because I'll start crying, and I'm not ready for that yet. There's a 1,000% chance I'm going to cry. I just don't want to do it yet, okay? So enough about Miss Sarah for now. So make sure you donate if you haven't already. All right, I need to also take a few minutes to acknowledge an organization called the Fernwood Foundation. That is the group that has hosted us tonight. And it's a group that has been fairly quiet, and I'm going to make a little bit more noise about it. So the Fernwood Foundation was started back in 1948 when our grandfather, I got a lot of family here tonight, so I will say our grandfather, a guy named Philip Henry Enoch Jr., became frustrated that in Fernwood, the white children were able to go to school and the black community was not. And he wasn't too happy about that, so he decided to do something about that, and he had, through business, gotten a lot of friends across the country, and he went around and got people to contribute to this organization he created, the Fernwood Foundation, and he decided to create a separate school district and build a school for the black community in Fernwood. And that was kind of the genesis of the organization, but he also helped a lot of local churches get underway, and just took a lot of time to try to make sure the community and the people that worked for him were taken care of. So that is how the Fernwood Foundation got started. And for a bunch of years while I was growing up and my siblings were growing up, our father, Diddle Enoch, was running the foundation. And he, if some of you know him, Diddle was very subdued. He was very selfless. And so he didn't make a lot of noise about it, but he kept moving the program forward and continued to do a lot of good things for the local community. And so when he passed, my siblings and I and a few other family members learned a little bit more about it and decided we wanted to, obviously continue the tradition and see if we could bring a little more energy to it. So that's what we've been doing the last couple of years. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the Fernwood Foundation. That is not why we're here. But if you're interested, there's a new website that can tell you a little bit more about the history of that organization. About 4 or 5 years ago, one of our board members, who's Mary Jane McDonald, lives in Fernwood, had learned about what Miss Sarah was trying to do. She and Miss Sarah's daughter worked together. And so she said, well, why don't we, as the foundation, get involved and try to help Miss Sarah? So we did. And luckily, we found out about her pretty early on as she was getting started. And we made a contribution and did that for a couple of years and hadn't really met her. We'd just basically send her a check each year. And the business that our grandfather had started was called Fernwood Industries, and it's got this old office building down in Fernwood. It's sat unused for about 30 years, and I was trying to clean it out, and I thought, well, maybe I'll call Miss Sarah and see if she'll come down here, because there's a bunch of furniture and old printers and things like that, and maybe she can put some of that to use. So I call up Miss Sarah and ask her to come down. She said, sure, that sounds good. And she meets me down there at the building, and I unlock the door, and she walks in, and I walk in behind her, and she doesn't say anything. She just goes, and she walks all the way around the building. I follow her. She's looking around. No words are being said, and we get back to the front door, and she turns to me, and she says, I'll take that desk that was in the third right room. I think I can use that table over there. 3 chairs from the back room, the printer, and that cable over there. So at first I'm impressed, she has photographic memory. And secondly, a very specific need. She knew what she needed. She didn't want everything. She just wanted what she needed. So I was about to say, okay, well, let's get all that packed up. And then she goes, but what I really need is this whole building. I was like, oh. Oh. So, my jaw kind of drops. I put it back in place. And then I was like, you go, girl. She knows what she needs and wants. And she starts to tell me why she wanted the building. She said, listen, I've been running this homeless shelter, and I've been able to have some success getting people back on their feet. But I've got a 3-stage program. And the final stage is that transition for someone who's got a job, they're starting to get some, momentum in their life again. They've probably got a bank account. Maybe they now have a driver's license, but they don't have the ability to cover all their expenses. So I want that final stage, housing unit that they can basically, launch back into society. And it's like, well, that sounds amazing, and let's figure this out. Let's figure out how to make this building that place for you. So we became kind of partners at that point, and both of us were excited about making that happen. It turns out that was a little bit more complicated. So after we started looking into it, and I had to contact the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality and the EPA, because this building's on this old creosote plant site, and there were a number of complicating factors, and it just became pretty obvious that it wasn't going to happen. We could not use this building for that purpose. And so what I kind of learned over time is Miss Sarah and I have a trait in common, I think. I want to believe I have this trait. I know that she does. And the way I would describe it is that when we hear people say no, we both kind of know it actually means yes. That person just doesn't know it yet. And so I at least, again, I hope that I have that. I've tried to apply that skill in a couple of different situations, and I've seen that Miss Sarah does. So as she's telling me about all of the trials and tribulations that she had been through trying to get the original homeless shelter underway, And here we had been through all these trials and tribulations of trying to get this building that exists, transformed into this purpose. And so we both decided, well, let's just go build a building. So that's basically how this story gets started. So, we decided that's what we're going to do, and you all are helping make that happen. So I guess I want to say thank you to Miss Sarah for dreaming big, and thank you all for making that possible. Now, I live out in Seattle, and some of you all know that, and I work for a company that's based in San Francisco. So I spend a lot of time in both of those cities, and they're, amazingly beautiful cities. They've got a great deal of beautiful natural resources and economic resources, but they both struggle tremendously with homelessness. It's quite striking if you spend any time in downtown of either of those places. And there's a lot of people there that care. There's a lot of money that's being thrown at it, but they haven't been able to solve it. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, here in Macomb, you've got a person that is solving that problem. There is a person that is the solution, as far as I can tell. And so that's pretty special. And I realized that, I wanted to see both of these cities that are important to me back on the West Coast make progress, but it's been very kind of daunting. And I could team up with Miss Sarah and, try to make a difference. So every time I come down here and get a chance to spend some time with her, I just feel better about the world. I feel better about myself. I've come to call her the MDMT, modern day Mother Teresa. And I had the good fortune to grow up here in Macomb. I felt very blessed with the childhood that I had. Macomb was a pretty idyllic place, during my early years, but it had gone through a pretty rough and really terrible era. The year I was born, 1964, was kind of the height of a tough time. And I don't live here any longer. I haven't been here, in quite some time, but I hear people talking about different struggles that are happening now. There's, a lot of things to be concerned about, but I see a lot of positive things happening. And I see the Palace Theater happening. I see a lot of people here that care. And I see Miss Sarah, who is out making a tremendous difference. And it's exciting to get connected with that, and it's very rewarding to know that you all want to be connected with that as well. I want to point out just a couple of quick parallelisms that I've noticed between the Palace Fernwood Foundation and the Greater Hope Homeless Shelter. A wise person once said that necessity is the mother of invention. I think that was Plato. A less well-known, much less wise person who's not a speech maker and is prone to cry once said that perseverance and passion are the mothers of a legacy of love. In case it wasn't clear, I said that. That's the first time I've ever actually said that. All right. So let's start with the last part, the legacy of love part. What I mean there is a sustained, ongoing love that continues to exist, continues to grow, continues to provide long after that original force, whoever it or whoever was the thing that got it started. I think that's true of Fernwood Foundation. I mentioned Philip Henry started it 75 years ago, and it's still trying to do good things. Palace Theater. There was a lot of passion and perseverance that had to go into making this place happen. I have a quick side story. So while that was getting underway, the Palace Foundation that was trying to get this pulled off came to Fernwood Foundation and said, hey, would you all like to contribute? And one of my siblings, either my brother or sister, kind of brought it to us and said, what do y'all think? And I was like, nah, we shouldn't do it. There's no way they're going to pull that off. It's going to take too much money. It's going to take too much time. So I was, Mr. Dark Cloud naysayer. And both of my siblings were like, no, we need to be a part of this. So I'd like to think that the fact that I said no is what inspired these guys to keep working at it so hard. So you're welcome. All right. There's a quote attributed to Mr. Rogers, who was asked by a little girl how he dealt with scary things or things that were worrisome. And he said, when I was a boy, I would see scary things in the news. And my mother would say to me, when you see something scary, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are willing to help. Well, Macomb, I want to introduce you to someone who is willing to help, someone who is helping, someone with the perseverance and the passion to build a legacy of love. And that legacy is called the Greater Hope Homeless Shelter. And that person is Miss Sarah Connerly. All right. I cannot believe I did not cry. I don't know how I pulled that off. I'm going to go in the back here in just a second and bawl my eyes out. But anyway, so I'm done talking now. What we're going to do is show you a quick video that very productive pictures put together, a little commercial. And then after that, we're going to have Miss Sarah come up and say a few words as well. And then we'll close things off. Everybody can have some beautiful food. And then a very good band's going to come out and give us some good music. All right, so let's roll the tape.